if everybody can cooperate and get here early. I would like to have, just as soon as a quorum is present, I would like to vote on the nominee. And since we have a vote at 10:30, I would hope that we could have people make their statements after the vote, and I'll be present for that purpose so we can keep everything open. If you, I won't ask for comment on what I just said. I hope we can work that out. So I'll go ahead with what I have to say opening this meeting. Meeting in executive session today to consider the nomination of the we're meeting today in executive session to consider the nomination of the Honorable Janet Yellen to be the first woman Secretary of the Treasury. I and my Republican colleagues have acted to process Dr. Yellen's nomination before the committee expeditiously. We've done that in the interest of bipartisanship and to help ensure that the President's cabinet can get up and running to help respond to the needs of the American people, particularly in the midst of our virus pandemic. I will vote yes on Dr. Yellen's nomination, given her qualifications and belief that the President is entitled to pick his own cabinet members as long as they're qualified and reasonable, and there's no doubt about the qualifications of Dr. Yellen. That's not to say, however, that I do not have concerns, but they're policy concerns. I do not support some of what I believe will be Dr. Yellen's political agenda, but I do hope that she maintains a view that she needs to work with members of the committee on both sides of the aisle in developing these policies. I also believe that Dr. Yellen was not entirely responsive to some of the questions we asked of her following her hearing on Tuesday. We will continue to ask questions, and I continue to expect timely, thorough responses. If confirmed as Treasury Secretary, Dr. Yellen will serve as part of the Biden administration. It will be important for her to keep in mind, though, that as Treasury Secretary, she will be serving the interest of all Americans and not simply those of a liberal agenda. I'll also note that in considering Dr. Yellen's nomination, we haven't organized any resistance campaign, vote boycott, or personalized attacks on her character. We have not created any false claims or unfounded accusations about her. Unfortunately, I can't say that like treatment was afforded to nominees of the prior administration. I hope that President Biden realizes that the treatment of Dr. Yellen's nomination in this committee signals an interest by me, and I know by all of my Republican colleagues in working cooperatively and in a bipartisan way. We want to work on policy issues to help all Americans, and we're not interested in cancerous cultural wars that serve only to divide the nation. If confirmed, Dr. Yellen will be, as I've already said, the first woman to serve as Treasury Secretary in the nation's history, which is a welcome development. And if confirmed, I look forward to beginning to work with her for all Americans. I congratulate Dr. Yellen on her nomination, and I will say a second time that I will support it. Senator White.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman and colleagues, we do now have a quorum, so I'm going to set a land speed record here and do this in just a couple of quick minutes. First, colleagues, I believe that members of the committee would agree that Chair Yellen had a successful nomination hearing on Tuesday. This is no surprise to any of us because she has actually been cleared for key economic posts 4 times by the United States Senate. She is, in effect, an NBA all-star when it comes to clearing the Senate nomination process. Third, We're all going to appreciate her commitment to working with all of us on transparency and coming here when it is necessary. She backed this up with substantial answers to hundreds of written questions. Finally, this is an urgent nomination. You look at yesterday's unemployment numbers, still right at the top of all-time records, and it's my hope that when Janet Yellen is in place, she will work with us to come up with a strong economic package, and that this nomination can be on the floor of the United States Senate this afternoon. This is an urgent appointment, and anybody who questions it, look at the unemployment numbers yesterday. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Will the chief clerk call the roll?
Mr. Crapo. Aye. Mr. Crapo, aye. Mr. Cornyn. Aye. Mr. Cornyn, aye. Mr. Thune.
We don't. Yeah. Well, continue call. He's on his way, but
Mr. Burr.
Continue to call.
Mr. Portman.
Aye.
Mr. Portman, aye. Mr. Toomey. Mr. Toomey, aye. Mr. Scott. Mr. Scott, aye. Mr. Cassidy.
Aye.
Mr. Cassidy, aye. Mr. Langford.
Aye.
Mr. Langford, aye. Mr. Daines.
Aye.
Mr. Daines, aye. Mr. Young.
Aye.
Mr. Young, aye. Mr. Sass. Aye. Mr. Sass, aye. Mr. Wyden. Aye. Mr. Wyden, aye. Ms. Stabenow. Aye. Ms. Stabenow, aye. Ms. Cantwell.
Aye.
Ms. Cantwell, aye. Mr. Menendez.
Aye by proxy.
Mr. Menendez, aye by proxy. Mr. Carper. Mr. Carper, aye. Mr. Cardin.
Aye by proxy.
Mr. Cardin, aye by proxy. Mr. Brown. Mr. Brown, aye. Mr. Bennett. Mr. Bennett, aye. Mr. Casey.
Aye by proxy.
Mr. Casey, aye by proxy. Mr. Warner.
Aye by proxy.
Mr. Warner, aye by proxy. Mr. Whitehouse.
Aye by proxy.
Mr. Whitehouse, aye by proxy. Ms. Hassan. Ms. Hassan, aye. Ms. Cortez Masto. Ms. Cortez Masto, aye. Mr. Chairman.
Before I vote, I can vote Thune by proxy, and I vote aye.
And Mr. Burr.
By proxy? Burr by proxy?
Mr. Burr, aye by proxy.
Yes, aye by proxy. I didn't say aye.
Mr. Chairman, the final tally is 26 ayes, 0 nays.
Okay. The nomination will be reported unanimously from the committee. Are you done, Senator Biden? Okay. Who wants the floor now to speak? Okay. Then the meeting is
Mr. Chairman.
adjourned. Oh, I'm sorry. Senator Cantwell.
Well, Mr. Chairman, I thank you and the committee for moving this nomination so quickly. We are proud that we have now the first woman to be the Treasury Secretary of the United States. I think that in her testimony before this committee really focused on how she was going to focus on Main Street instead of Wall Street, or at least, and there's a lot of policy she has to continue to focus on, and making sure that shadow banking isn't a key aspect of the challenges we face, and making sure that depositors' interests are looked after. But I really do hope that she can lead a new day at Treasury to focus on the Main Street issues of the workforce training, and the important aspects of getting America's economy and getting people back to work. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, I'll call according to the
Chairman,
order.
Senator Menendez is here. I think you'd like to be recorded in person.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, if I could be recorded as aye in person.
Yes, you sure may. Yes. Now I'll go according to the order that the clerk has given me. Senator Crapo.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll be very brief. I first want to associate myself very strongly with your remarks. I believe you very well stated the fact that we want to try to work closely together, and we want an era of collaboration and partnership in developing the tax policy and the other policies that this committee will work on as this new administration stands up. I have very strong disagreements with Dr. Yellen on a number of her positions, particularly in the tax policy arena, but she has committed to us that she will work with us on these issues and the concerns that we have. And I think the strong vote on our side to support her today is an indication that we want to engage. And I simply want to ask my colleagues to engage with us, and Dr. Yellen to engage with us as we develop the new policies as we move forward.
Senator Stabenow.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I also want to just thank you and Senator Wyden, Senator Crapo as well, and the whole committee. I think this is a great way to start the new year with a unanimous vote on behalf of someone who I believe it may in fact be the most competent, qualified Secretary of the Treasury we have ever had, and certainly her perspective is one to fight and move forward to build the country back better for Americans, and I look forward to working with her. Thank you.
Senator Scott.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I certainly see the wisdom of her serving as a Secretary of Treasury. She is certainly a qualified candidate, one that I philosophically can't imagine agreeing with often, and certainly my comments during the finance hearing on Tuesday reflected my concerns about things like a $15 minimum wage, $15 an hour minimum wage, and eliminating tips as a way of misunderstanding how to put America back on the right track. However, she's not my Secretary of the Treasury. She is the choice of President Biden, and so I think he deserves an opportunity to put his Treasury team in place.
Senator Cantwell has spoken, so now Senator Lankford.
Mr. Chairman, thank you for the conversation today on this for just a moment. I did struggle with this nomination because there's no question she's qualified for this role. So I have to strike a balance between my advice and my consent. If I'm going to give my advice to President Biden, it wouldn't be to pick someone that I philosophically disagree with so much. If I'm going to give my consent, I would give my consent because she's definitely qualified and has been through the training and the preparation to be able to do it. So I do hope that she maintains her word where she said she's going to work with Congress, not try to go around Congress, not try to implement policies, to be able to implement something that's clearly something that should come through this committee. Multiple times she answered questions and said, I will do things differently and will actually come to the Finance Committee to be able to work this out. And I look forward to holding her to account in that in the days ahead. Thank you.
Okay. Before here's where we are. Before I call for another speaker, Senator Thune first, and then Senator Casey for unanimous consent to have your voice or vote in person.
Mr. Chairman, I thank you. I understand I'm recorded by proxy and would ask unanimous consent that I be recorded in support of the nomination as here live.
So ordered. Senator Casey.
Same as Senator Thune, I would ask consent as if my vote be recorded in person.
So ordered. Senator Whitehouse for the same reason? Yes, sir. Okay, so ordered. Now, Senator Portman, I was going to call on Senator Hassan, or did you have something else you want?
I just want to talk.
Okay.
For a good time.
Is Senator Hassan's not here? Is she on video?
No. Yeah.
Okay. Then we'll go to Senator Daines. Senator Daines isn't here. Then we go to Senator Cortez Masto.
She's not here, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Then Senator Young. I guess he's not here. Senator Portman.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I voted yes today. I believe Janet Yellen is highly qualified, as was said earlier, maybe one of the most qualified to serve. And I'm encouraged by my conversation with her about fiscal sanity, where she said that she would be a voice for fiscal sanity within the administration at a time when we have unprecedented levels of deficit and the largest debt. In fact, as a percent of our economy, which is, I think, the most important way to measure it, we're approaching a record level, which is frightening. With regard to tax policy, though, I do want to make the point that we had something going really good going into the pandemic. We had 19 straight months of wage growth of over 3% on an annualized basis, mostly going to middle-income workers. We had 22 straight months where we had job openings nationally that outnumbered the number of unemployed individuals. Those two are related, by the way. And I worry about her proposals on tax increases. And it was said earlier she's going to be a secretary for the Main Street. Well, a lot of Main Street businesses are going to be impacted if the taxes go up, particularly on pass-through entities, which is most of the companies in our states. And a lot of these small businesses are going to be hurt and therefore not be able to hire the people that we want them to be able to hire as the economy starts to improve, as the coronavirus becomes addressed, as we get more vaccines out there. In terms of the business side, remember, we used to be able to, in America, say that even though we had the highest taxes of any industrialized country, for our businesses, people could defer those taxes. And now we don't allow deferral anymore, which I think is a good thing. But instead, we say they have to be taxed at a certain amount for their foreign earnings. There's effectively a minimum tax in place. That's what's called the GILTI tax. It's complicated, but the bottom line is apparently she wants to increase that substantially, double it. And that would be really bad, because one thing that's happened in the past few years is companies have started to invest in America rather than investing overseas. So I think we need to be very careful, and that's my concern. So I hope we'll have some honest debate on these issues, and at the end of the day, we'll really look at the economic impact of these issues of taxation and not in a knee-jerk way be raising taxes on American workers. Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Senator Cassidy is next, if he wants the floor. Okay, then Senator Brown.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I agree with Senator Stabenow that, and my friend from Ohio, Senator Portman, that soon to be, I hope, Secretary Yellen is the most qualified Treasury Secretary and probably in American history. I appreciate so much her gravitas and her depth. She understands what William Sprague said to the Senate Banking Housing Committee that Senator Crapo's chaired, that we didn't think before D-Day that we have to figure out how much it costs to win World War II. We did what we needed to do, and I think that Janet Yellen understands that, understands too how important tax policy is. I didn't really hear my colleagues talking much about the debt when we passed the tax giveaway in 2017. That was a big giveaway to the wealthy, and the middle class really didn't benefit. And I appreciate particularly the work that Senator Bennett and Senator Casey and a number of us have done on the Earned Income Tax Credit and the Child Tax Credit expansion and full refundability that Ms. Yellen supports and will fight for. So it's an easy vote to vote in support of her. Thanks, Mr. Chairman.
Senator Carper.
Test. All right. I just to our Republican colleagues, thank you for joining us and voting affirmatively for Janet Yellen. I think she'll do a terrific job. And frankly, I was delightfully surprised with the good work that Steve Mnuchin did in the last Congress. I know we didn't agree on everything with him either, but I certainly give him an A for effort. I want to say I'm a recovering state treasurer. I was elected state treasurer when I was 29. We had the worst credit rating in the country, tied for dead last with Puerto Rico. The folks in Puerto Rico were embarrassed to be in the same category with us. We couldn't balance our budgets for nothing. We had no pension fund. We had no cash management system. We were like dog meat. We had the lowest rate of startups, of businesses in the country. And we had the highest marginal personal income tax rate in the country. 19.6% was our state marginal personal income tax rate. And we worked really hard. Republicans and Democrats worked hard together. We had a great governor, Pete DuPont, and I tried to help a little bit in my role. So if we can come from where we were then to 6 years later, a AA credit rating, and then AAA, we can get through this as well. There's extraordinary cooperation across party lines at the state level that help to make that possible. When I first got here to the Senate, I knew some of the people in the Senate, some of the folks I didn't know. And the folks I didn't know, I asked if I could go have a cup of coffee with them. And one of the people I didn't really know was Ted Kennedy. And he said, no, we'll have lunch. Come and have lunch in my hideaway with me. And so we did. Okay, pal. And I said, one of the things I said to him over lunch, we had an incredible hideaway. It's like a Kennedy museum. But over lunch, I asked him, I said, why is it that you, Ted Kennedy, most liberal Democrat in the Senate, you have all these Republicans who want you to be their lead Democrat on their big bills? Why is that? I'll never forget what he said. He said, I'm always willing to compromise on policy. I'm never willing to compromise on principle. That's what he said. Always willing to compromise on policy, never willing to compromise on principle. And I think there's a bunch of principles we can agree on. One is we got to get the lead out and get people vaccinated in this country. President Biden has set a goal: 100 million people in the first 100 days. We need to do that and more. As you know, we got kids that need to be back in school. We got unemployed workers that are laid off. They don't have the skills that are needed to fill out the jobs. We got to get them retrained and retooled. We just have a whole bunch of stuff. And we agree on the principles that those are the things we need to get done. And we're not going to always agree on how to get them done. But at least we can agree on the principles, and then we'll figure out the policies that would make that happen. So I look forward to doing that. I look forward to working with all of you. And I want to say to our friend Chuck Grassley, it's been a privilege serving with you these last 20 years in your various leadership roles. We look forward to Ron being our majority leader on our committee, and I look forward to being with all of you. It's a privilege. Thank you.
Okay. Senator Bennett.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I will just say that it's a new day in Washington, and I think that the unanimous vote that you've helped generate this morning, I hope is a sign of things to come. Thank you.
Okay. Senator Cornyn. You want to pass? Okay. Senator Sass, are you in the room? I can't see way back there.
I am, Chairman, but I don't have any comment right now. Thank you, sir.
Okay. Then Senator Menendez was here and has left. Senator Thune. Okay. Senator Whitehouse.
Right here, making sure that I'm actually, the light doesn't, I guess my microphone works even if the light doesn't.
We can hear you.
Great, thank you. First, let me join Senator Bennett.
Listen to Senator Whitehouse.
Let me just join Senator Bennett in thanking all of my colleagues for the way this vote turned out. I think this is a very good start, and I think this committee can be very significant as we go forward to solve a whole variety of problems. One that, as I think people know, I'm pretty strong-minded about is the problem of climate change, about which both the scientific warnings and the economic warnings are becoming really dire. And I was gratified to hear Secretary-to-be Yellen describe her views of the subject. And she clarified even further in her QFRs how important putting a price on carbon is to getting this problem solved. As many people here have heard me say, the industry floats on an annual subsidy that the International Monetary Fund has quantified at $600 billion per year. And it's very hard to fix the climate problem around a massive subsidy like that. And the strength of her response on carbon pricing gives me a really strong signal that we can work together on this. And as I have noted, many of our Republican colleagues, former secretaries, former members of Congress, former economic advisors to presidents, all on the Republican side, and a considerable number of Republican and conservative-leaning think tanks have all come to that as the solution. In fact, pretty much every Republican-leaning group that has thought through climate change and proposed a solution has come there. So it not only opens an effective pathway to solving this problem before it really damages the farms of Iowa and the coasts of Rhode Island, but it also gives us, I think, an opening to do it in a bipartisan way. So congratulations again to all, and particularly thank you to my Republican colleagues for today's vote.
Senator Casey, I'm sorry.
And we're off.